Okay, welcome. We are super excited to talk about CBD today. What is the stuff? What's the hype? What's the history? What are the differences on what's out there on the market? Will you get high if you take it? These are important questions, right? So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Leah, who is a young living diamond and is going to talk about the history of CBD. So with that, Leah, you're up.
Thank you, Allie. Okay, so we're going to talk today only about Nature's Ultra CBD, and that's really important because Nature's Ultra is infused with Young Living essential oils, and we know just from all the things that we've done, and we'll talk on this a little bit later on about the unparalleled purity. Like there is significant differences in quality, and so you want to make sure you're using the good stuff. So let's just start by answering that question that I hear so often when people talk about CBD and they ask, is CBD marijuana? Well, the hemp plant is a cousin to the marijuana plant, and hemp is the parent plant, and cannabis is the scientific name for that plant. Both hemp and marijuana contain CBD. The marijuana plant was hybridized to produce more than 40 times the amount of THC, which is the chemical that's responsible for making you high. So hemp typically has a very low amount of THC, and in fact, for it to be legal in the US, it must have less than 0.3% THC. However, Young Living CBD has 0% THC. So why are we scared of CBD then? We've been trained to be scared of it, truthfully, because of the legal climate and implications in the history of the US. Now, it all started with the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 that taxed cannabis. Now, it had nothing to do with hemp being dangerous and everything to do with politics. So that might sound a little familiar with today's climate. So let's just talk about that for a minute. You see, hemp was being used to make paper and clothing and was in direct competition with some of the other cash crops. And these powerful owners set out to make it illegal so that they would not have to compete with it. Hemp is actually one of the oldest cultivated crops of all time, and it has been used in medicine, to make rope, sails, paper, and so many other things. And its history goes back over 6,000 years from China to Rome and westward after that. Even in the US, early Jamestown settlers observed the Indians growing hemp as early as 1607. Colonial farmers could even be fined by the British government if they did not grow hemp because they needed it for sailing. So eventually politics won out and the hemp was grouped with all cannabis species as a Schedule I drug in the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. So no wonder so many people today still misunderstand it and are afraid of it. However, in 2014, let's fast forward over time, the government passed a program through the Farm Bill that allowed hemp to be grown and studied, removing hemp from the Controlled I substance to become a commodity like corn, soybeans, and tobacco. Now, many predict the hemp industry will grow by 700%, and hemp will become as plentiful as corn was in the Midwest as a cash crop. And within the next 5 years, it's predicted that most Americans will have at least tried a CBD product, and a high percentage will use it just as they do a multivitamin or a supplement to promote their health today. Now, to help you understand why it's such a great natural health product, you need to know that hemp is actually a plant that produces phytocannabinoids, which naturally enhance the body's endocannabinoid system. Now, science of the endocannabinoid system is just emerging, and the entire body system was actually not even discovered until the 1990s. So if you grew up like I did in the 80s and 90s in high school, you never learned about this in biology. This was discovered 30 years after hemp was banned. But ever since the Farm Bill, scientists have been uncovering so many incredible truths about it. And a reputable scientific journal published a report actually proving that CBD is not toxic, even in doses up to 90 times the amount that a doctor would typically recommend or seem to be tolerated in humans. The body simply takes what it needs and it flushes out the rest. So there's no need to be afraid of CBD. And let's learn a little bit more now about the science of how it works in our body. And Tina is going to talk about that endocannabinoid system a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Leah. Hey guys, I'm Tina Cicela, and I'm a diamond in Central Alabama. I'm also a certified natural health professional through Trinity School of Natural Health. And like Leah was talking about the history, oh my gosh, one of my most favorite parts of my certification training at Trinity was the history of medicine, the history of where we have come from and where we're going. And I think it just came at such a great time because this last climate that we've all been through, I think we've mentioned that already too, is that we are seeing more and more the politicalization of medicine. And just to kind of tell you some things that I had learned, just some little nuggets that are fascinating, and you can find this on any search, is look up the formation of the AMA. Look up when that happened and why. Look up who funds medical universities. Look up all that stuff, and you wonder why modern medicine isn't talking about nutrition, isn't talking about the nutrition that we know of, the whole food nutrition. I literally was just on a consult with a client, and she had said that someone had recommended in the medical industry that a diabetic could go to Waffle House and eat pretty much anything, just avoid the potatoes for their blood sugar. So that's the advice that we're seeing from some of these medical people, right? And not to bash them, it's not their fault. So like Leah was saying, the information is just coming out. It's just being legalized. We have been censored from so much over the years, and I could get on a soapbox about it, but I want you to ask yourself, why is it that if I type out information on a social media site about CBD, it gets removed and I get put in jail, in social media jail? Why does that happen? So ask yourself about that. And then you'll understand why so much of this is just coming out. Is it breaking news? No, it's been around forever. I've got a couple of resources that I will give you the links, and I'll type out anything you need to me to go over when I get done in the chat. So, but there's a couple of books that I love to reference. Number one, The Power of Essential Oils. The Power of CBD and Essential Oils by Dr. Ollie Winker. He's also a diamond with Young Living, but he's a medical doctor who has chosen to go down the educational path of learning about true nutrition and true plant-based medicine. Okay. And then there's this other one called Healing with Hemp Cbd Oil. This is by Dr. Earl Mendel. So this one I like because it's like a reference book. You can look up something you might be suffering with. I heard somebody mention pain earlier. You can look up inflammation in here, and it can tell you some of the triggers of your inflammation, but also it will tell you what kind of CBD milligrams you should be using. So I love that we started with the CBD Beauty Boost video, because that's just information. It shows you how careful Young Living and Nature's Ultra is with the bottling, the handling of our product. So you might not have ever heard the word phytoremediator. So think about, let's break that down. That's something else we learned at Trinity, is how to break down a big word and make it mean something. So phyto is a plant, right? Our oils come from plants. CBD is comes from plants. Hemp is a plant. So a phyto remediator, remediate. Think of Surf Pro trucks. Why do they come into a space? There's been a mess, right? There's been some kind of disaster that Surf Pro has to come in and vacuum up and clean up, that most people wouldn't want to handle on their own. So the phytoremediator is a plant that helps to clean, God made it this way, helps to clean the dirt, the soil, the water, the air, all of that stuff, right? And so hemp is a phytoremediator. So what does that mean for us? If you're using a CBD product, or any hemp product for that matter, you want to look for the standards that mean that it's grown in an environment that doesn't contain toxins, because by the very design that God made the hemp plant, it is making it to where it's taking out the toxins, and it is absorbed into the plant. So if we're getting a product from the plant, we're getting the toxins from that plant. So that's why I love Young Living. That's why I love Nature's Ultra, the seed to seal. It covers all the bases, right? So when we look at the endocannabinoid system, it's called the ECS. And I'm literally going to tell you some things that Dr. Ollie has taught me, in addition to I hold a certification from Trinity on the endocannabinoid system. It's a lot of science, and we could teach for a series on this, but I want to give you some of the nuggets, some of the takeaways so you can understand what this is. So imagine your digestive system, right? I think we can all agree that enzymes and probiotics are important for our digestive system. There are keyholes in our digestive system that enzymes and probiotics fill those keyholes. They are the key that turn the lock so that we can break down the food. Well, think about if you did not know that there was an entire system in the body like the digestive system, and that's the ECS, the Endocannabinoid System. This system has been there since you were created, but we haven't studied it because the key that goes in the keyhole in this system was illegal. So why study something that the only key that fits it is something we don't have access to, right? So that's the big aha moment for me, and it should be for you, that we have this system. It's been there the whole time, but now we have access to something that has the key to be able to help us with that. So let me just share some excerpts from Dr. Ollie's book. The ECS, endocannabinoid system, has homeostatic roles. So homeostasis is health, right? Fully functioning health in the body. The ECS has homeostatic roles in hunger, appetite, energy metabolism, neuroplasticity. That basically means formation of brain pathways. So it's neuroprotective. So it's protecting those neuropathways. Pain modulation, memory, the flight or fight response, your adrenal system, right? Connective tissue repair, thermoregulation, the ability to be able to regulate our body for not being too hot or too cold, stress, anxiety, sleep, immune response, as well as human behavior. So our emotions, right? Basically, the ECS involves homeostasis with regards to relaxation, eating, sleeping, forgetting, and protecting. We can have a dysfunctioning ECS. We can have a suboptimal ECS system. And those situations have been connected to irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, migraines, schizophrenia, uncontrolled Parkinson's, Huntington disease, chronic motion sickness like Meniere's, and anorexia, bulimia, and possibly obesity. In fact, the terms ECS deficiency system has also become a medical name called clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, or CEDS. You know, when I was younger, I don't remember having knowledge of like disorders like chronic fatigue syndrome, but now we hear those words almost every day, right? You're going to be hearing this about the clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, as medicine is looking into this. Now, why do you think medicine's looking into it now? These are some other questions you can ask yourself, because they're creating medicines that you can get a prescription for, but you can also use some other things without a prescription. So not that we're claiming that any of these diseases can be cured or treated with CBD, and certainly not Nature's Ultra or Young Living, but this is just factual things about the endocannabinoid system. So think about pathological conditions such as nausea, vomiting, PTSD, autoimmune diseases. We just named a bunch of them. Thyroid disorders, rheumatoid arthritis, cardiovascular disorders such as stroke, autism, cancer, neurological diseases. The list just goes on and on, right? So as we learn about that, we know that the key that's going to unlock these receptor sites within the ECS is held in the cannabinoids, right? So the cannabinoids themselves, there's different ones. We often hear CBD, we often hear THC, but you guys, there's a whole lot of them. And Dr. Ollie goes into all of these different receptor sites and what role they play. But I want to kind of tell you about one other thing that happens within the neurotransmitters, because that's what the Nature's Ultra, that's what CBD is going to help with, neurotransmitters and how they work in the body. So G proteins are receptors. They're a huge protein family of receptors that detect molecules outside of the cell membranes. And when they're properly activated by bonding of these molecules, they will undergo a change in structure. This change in structure leads to the activation of subunits inside the cell membrane, which will then in turn trigger a cascade of events within the cell called a cellular response. Now, I teach a lot about baby steps to wellness. And a lot of us who have had these scary diagnoses like fibromyalgia, that in my case, we didn't get that way overnight. We got that way through a series of choices that led us to our body just saying, I've had enough, right? So when we look at this cascade effect, we want to support all of the systems in our body so that we can walk through those baby steps and help our body do what it was intended to do in creation to begin with. So you cannot leave out CBD as part of your wellness program, because you're going to be affecting that entire cascade. You're going to be eliminating an entire part of your body that's not getting the nutrition, the cellular response that it needs. And so I encourage you to grab these books, read them, understand this, help others. But like Leah was saying, don't allow society or history or some kind of stigma that has been placed on cannabis throughout the years keep you from supporting a part of your system that was created and needs to be supported. So bring it on, use it. And just one little tip about CBD and Nature's Ultra, like the Beauty Boost. It's great. I'm 53 years old and I'm fighting it every step of the way, right? So I'm using it on my face, I'm using it on my neck, the top of my hands. But did you know it's 600 milligrams in that bottle? It's a fantastic rose-infused CBD blend that you can use topically anywhere on your body. So maybe you lifted a few too many weights and your arms are sore. Put the Beauty Boost on your muscles. And just watch and see what you can do with the Beauty Boost even. And of course, we're going to have some other information for you. I'm going to pass it on over to Abby because she's going to talk to you about the spectrum, the full spectrum versus the smart spectrum, and how we're so different than what you would see out there, because this is good stuff, you guys. You're going to understand why we have essential oils in our Nature's Ultra CBD. So Abby, I'm going to turn it over to you and then I'll add some links in the comments.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Hi guys. I'm Abby Zakritz. I have been a CBD advocate for several years now, and I kind of want to give you a little bit of background because I think it's going to help you understand that I do know my stuff. So CBD didn't come out with Young Living until, was it 19 or 20, guys? Shake just like thumbs up around then, 19. And so my son suffered a near drowning in 2014, and by the grace of God, he is thriving. But we were given a very grim diagnosis. And so we started on this in conjunction with traditional methods, also alternative methods. That's how I met Leah Espy, who's a diamond leader on here somewhere. And she introduced me to oils. First time my son slept through the night with no problems was Valor. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. I was so good. But we had started on the path of CBD before Young Living had it. And I'm telling you that because I want you to understand that I've gone the gamut. I went through all the hoops because it wasn't deregulated until I believe the Farmers Act or the Farm Bill passed. And so I'm going to show you and cover his personal information, but this is my son's medical marijuana license. He never once used marijuana, guys, but he had to get that license because we wanted CBD for him, and they had put it all together under one umbrella. Today, if my son needed marijuana, he would have to go through the process again because we've let this expire because CBD is now legal. It is legal nationwide. Young Living didn't touch it until it was legal nationwide. They wanted to make sure that nobody could, they weren't going to jeopardize our license, right, as distributors. And so they waited till all the red tape was correct. They crossed their T's, dotted their I's. And so I really valued Young Living's approach with that because I knew of a lot of companies that were doing it improperly beforehand because I was knee deep in CBD. I'm a huge advocate for it because it helped my son get off of baclofen and Valium. If you know anything about those drugs, they're very heavy drugs. We use it for spasticity, but there's a lot of pros that I learned about it for my son. It also helps with bone density, which everybody, especially any woman over the age of 30, hey guys, that's something we should take daily. I love that it's like a supplement. You're not going to OD on it. I let our physicians know we were doing it. And so we made sure there was no interactions with meds, which there truly really isn't unless there's a particular med, but they can check for those things and do it in conjunction with your doctors. I mean, it's just an amazing product. But what I found was the moment it was deregulated, it was everywhere. Like 7-Eleven had it, Publix has it, everywhere has it, right? And you're kind of like, okay, well, how do I know what to choose? Everything says clean, everything says organic. Like, how do I know? I love that, was it Tina? I love that she talked about hemp being an absorbent plant. So I'm kind of going to break down full spectrum, isolate, smart spectrum for you guys, because that's some terms you're going to see when you go to purchase CBD. Young Livings is a pretty unique one, and you're going to hear why. And by the way, before I go there, 70% of the market is mislabeled. So that means if it says 0.03% THC and you're like, okay, that's fine, that would be fine on a drug test, 70% of the time it's incorrect with full spectrum. So that means if you have a license that requires you to get drug tested, like a police officer, nurse, teachers, and you take a full spectrum product, that isn't well regulated, you could potentially come across a drug test and test positive for marijuana, although you never took it. So that's really important to know. But here's the perk of full spectrum. So full spectrum is the plant absorbs everything in the ground. They squeeze out the plant and you're getting whatever's in the bottle. The cool thing about that is there's things called terpenes. Okay, so terpenes come along CBD terpene and they help it move faster. So here's a really cool example. And this is Dr. Oliver's. This is not my example. You can read it in his book that she referenced, but I think it's really understandable. Let's imagine a man trying to move a piano up a flight of stairs. Could he do it? Eventually. Like, it's going to take a while, right? Leg by leg, he would be moving slowly. Terpenes are the things that come around the friend and help lift that piano and get it up the stairs faster. So that's a perk of full spectrum, right? Because full spectrum has CBD, but then it has terpenes like THC and other things all around it. Well, the only way to make sure your body isn't receiving the THC, which might not be a problem for you, but also just so you know, full spectrum, it takes everything. So if it's not a clean source like Young Living, you could get water that's going down the stream, soaking into that farm that has all kinds of toxins, pesticides, it's all coming into that bottle. But we know Young Living triple tests everything. They have a great standard. They partnered originally with a fantastic farm that had been doing it for 50 years. I mean, it's a great company. So isolate is where you strip it down and you just have CBD, but then you just have that man on the computer or on the piano, right? You just have that one guy standing there trying to move the piano. It's a great product, but you really need some terpenes around it. Here's what Young Living did, and it's brilliant. It's mind-blowing. They were like, hey, why don't we take the terpenes and we say, you know what? This terpene is really great for inflammation. We're going to put it together. This terpene is really great for the brain. We're going to put it together. This terpene is really great for sleep. We're going to put it together. So not only are we going to have an isolate that is good because we know there's nothing else in it. You don't have to worry about the drug test. You don't have to worry about ever being positive in any of those things. You don't have to worry about toxins and heavy metals or anything like that being in the bottle, but you're going to get the speed of the friends coming along without any kind of psychedelic effect that THC can bring on with it. So for my son who has a anoxic brain injury, so he has spasticity in his muscles, or anybody that has Parkinson's or anybody that has muscle pain, we pair it with frankincense. Frankincense is great for healing damaged cells. It's great for inflammation. It's like it's one of those oils that you keep in your back pocket no matter what. We can also pair it with cinnamon, which is great for inflammation. We can put those things together, and then he's getting that great relief. Plus, he's getting the security that we know that it is just purely this, and we made it have the friends around to help him get what he needs faster. Does that make sense? Just like nod your head if you're following me, because I know I'm kind of like, okay, all right, that's good. All right. So I love that Young Living, I'm pretty sure Smart Spectrum was originally Young Living's. And I know Leah, okay, yeah, they're nodding their heads. It was that they patented that, they kept that locked down because we were the first to come out and be like, hey, yeah, we need terpenes. And that was the pushback. When CBD came out, that was the pushback from everybody. You need full spectrum. And they were right when it came to how fast it'll hit you. But Young Living was like, hey, full spectrum doesn't mean THC. You can have terpenes in there. You can put other things in there in a clean and effective manner. And guys, we know as Young Living members, and if you're not, like you're gonna want to do this with a clean company, but we know that you can have a clean source and have that full effect, and do it all under one brand that's been there for years and years and years, and they're transparent. I mean, this they were right when they were saying, Tina was saying, CBD is like they're expecting it to explode. The market is tremendous. I mean, it is everywhere. And we're not just talking about in the United States, everywhere, all across the world, people are rediscovering this plant that we have used for thousands of years medicinally. I mean, you could, if you look up pharmacies from the 1890s, you will see that they used to keep a hemp plant as a sign of a pharmacy, because it's such a good plant. It helps us in so many ways. And so I hope that breaks it down. Isolate is CBD, straight, pure, no terpenes. Full spectrum is everything from the plant, which sounds great, but you get a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily want in the bottle as well. Smart spectrum is the isolate paired with the terpenes that are actually going to help you. I think it's a brilliant way. And I just want to share this real quick. My son was using CBD before Young Living had it. I transferred over to Young Living's. I would not have done that if it wasn't equally or better than the stuff I was using. But to me, as a Young Living member, I earn points on the CBD he gets. We buy it monthly. He uses it every day. And it has been a life changer for us. And it's the most cost efficient for high quality, because there's junk out there. You can go to 7-Eleven and get something that I would never put in my body. But for high quality CBD, it's the most cost efficient one. So it just made complete sense for us to go and transfer over that way. So that's my 2 cents on full spectrum and isolate. I think it's a pretty cool perspective. And now I am handing it over. Leah, help me with because my phone cut out.
It's to me.
Oh, yay!
Thanks, Abby. That's amazing. I'm so glad that your son has a solution, and such trauma. Wow. I'm glad he's doing better. So I'm going to share with you guys a few stories and talk about what Living has as far as CBD products so far on the market. So let's talk stories first. Okay. All right. So first of all, let me see if I can get my camera to cooperate here. Can you see that big old lady laying on the floor? She is one of my children, and she's she's my oldest child. In fact, she is turning, actually, I don't know how old she is. We gave her a birthday. She's a rescue, but she's probably somewhere around 14 years old. And she's half Great Dane and she's half Doberman, which means that's joint. That is like a major joint digestive issue problem waiting to happen. And she's old, right? And so I want to support her body. And so I love the CBD for her. So one day I used to use it kind of inconsistently with her, which, by the way, is something we need to talk about. Is CBD cannabinoids, they build in your body. So you really need to be consistent with them, I have learned. And it really takes about 2 weeks before you can really see a difference in what is going on with the body. So first, I want to start with that. So be consistent because it really does make a difference. So one day, Bonnie was struggling. Like she, when I say this dog is a chow hound, like she is in my face when she wakes up, like literally pushing her nose against my nose because she wants to be fed. Then she wants to go on her walk, and she's like at the door rearing to go. And one day she would not get up. Like she wasn't even in my bedroom. I came to find her. I was like, "Are you ready to eat?" And she would not get up. She, which is not this dog. Okay. She is like, I mean, I home make food for them. Like, trust me, like she runs to the bowl every morning to get her breakfast. I couldn't get her up. So, I mean, I was in like panic mode, and I went and I grabbed her CBD. I personally have her on peppermint just because it's also good for digestion. There's 3 different kinds of sublingual CBD oil. And so I put a dropper full under her tongue. And within a couple of minutes, she got up and she went and had a breakfast. And then I asked her if she wanted to go for a walk, and she kind of looked at me like, not really. I speak her language. And so she just was laying there. So I gave her another dropper full. And then within a few minutes, I kid you not, within a few minutes, she's at the door telling me she was ready to go. So that was, and she walked like peppy, happy, like a young pup was walking down the lane. So that is my story with my pup. Couple things I wanted to, that were going through my mind as I was telling the story is on the bottle, you'll notice that it says for topical usage. That is a labeling thing because regulation is consistently changing. So to be safe, Young Living just went with a topical labeling. If you're in other countries like South Africa, for instance, it actually says on the bottle for sublingual use or for internal use. So we use this under the tongue for anything. Oils and CBD is the fastest way to get it into your bloodstream and super, super absorption, powerful absorption. So I love to put it under the tongue for for humans and animals alike. So with my dog, I literally put it under her tongue and I just put it under her tongue, like squish it under her tongue. For me, I try not to swallow for as long as possible. I want it to absorb before I swallow. So 20 seconds, a minute, however long until I have to swallow. Okay. So another story of someone on our team quickly, another joint story is that there's a gal who was on pretty heavy arthritis meds for many, many years. Like we're talking 20 years on these meds. And she had to have a surgery. And so they told her she had to get off of her meds because it wasn't safe for them to do surgery while she was on these meds, which by the way, should be a little of a warning sign for you, right? Just like ding, 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 like, why do I need to get off of this, right? So at the same time, she had come to the Young Living convention and she bought the CBD and she started trying it. And the doctor was totally in approval of this. Now, this is a person who has her inflammation numbers checked regularly with her physician, as well as her liver numbers checked because those meds have an impact on her liver. So she was actually, after using the CBD and having to get off her meds, she saw no difference in her mobility. In fact, it was better. She went back to the doctor later. They kept having to delay her surgery for other reasons. And so at this point, she'd been off of her meds for a year. She'd been using only CBD, and her inflammation numbers were lower than they'd ever been. Her liver numbers were better than they'd ever been since she'd been using those meds. And she is with full permission off of all of her arthritis meds. So that was really, really amazing story for her. And she, in her case, was taking sublingually the CBD. And then just for me, just so you know, like it doesn't have to be a drastic situation of why you grab the CBD. It's just good. There's been a lot of studies on that virus that's going around and prevention using CBD. And so I use it daily, and I choose to use the cinnamon at night because I just find I sleep much deeper and I fall asleep much faster when I use it. The other benefit of using the cinnamon is that it helps with blood sugar control. And so I tend to like my chocolate at night, and I'm not saying I'm going to give that up fully, but it does help me want to eat less of it. So just a little bonus with the cinnamon. And so I want to tell you, there's tons and tons of stories, by the way, but I'm just going to share with you what the product line looks like. So right now I don't have any of the citrus oil on hand, but we have a Cool Mint, and you see I have a 500 milligram, which is what I use because I'm not using it truly therapeutically. I'm just using it for a better sleep. But for my old lady pup, I use 1,000 milligram for her, which means I just need to use less of it. So I'm putting less under her tongue at a time, which is much easier. So basically it's the same thing. You just, if you wanted more, you take more. If you want to use less under your tongue, then buy the higher dosage and use less. And you can really play with that. And I'm always asked how much. You are the one who knows how much. Just maybe do it a little bit higher for the first 2 weeks and then see if you can back off, or if you notice a difference, if you're using it for something therapeutic that maybe you need to take a little bit more of that. Some people take it twice a day. Some people take it once a day. And so it comes in this and the citrus flavor. And then the other dropper version of this is the Beauty Boost, which is amazing. Like it really has made a difference for my skin. And then if you can see on mine is blue because I like to spike mine with blue tansy. I don't know why. It's just like I'm called to do that. So I love rose. it's amazing, but I also love the Utanzi. So just know you can play with it, just like any other face serum. You don't have to take it like it is. We have so many choices for skin oils. So some was dripping, so I might as well use it on my neck, right? So just know that you can spike it with whatever you want. And then my husband is always stealing this. I never have access to this. I always have to steal it off his counter. Is the muscle rub is the bomb diggity. My husband was an athlete and his body is paying for it now in his late 40s. So we do all the things. We do Agiles, we do Sulfurzyme for him. We do all the things, but this is his go-to. And like, it's really funny. Whenever he goes to play golf, he swears by this. It's like just loosens him up and helps him prevent any discomfort. But like I can smell that he's going to play golf. I'm like, oh, I follow him with my nose. I'm like, he must be going to play golf because he always puts it on right then. And then the Calm CBD is a roll-on that has calming oils and the roll-on. And if you can see on the other side of my office, there's another pup. And when we got her, she was crazy. She was like running around like a banshee around my house. And so I use that. I don't know why I chose to do this. Just sometimes you just go with what you feel like it is the right thing. I rolled it on her ears and kind of rubbed it on her ears. And she went from like banshee zoomies all around my house and backyard to just chill, hanging. So I also used that on my son, who also can be crazy banshee. He's getting older now, it's easier, but when he was younger, it was really bad. And that is a great tool to have for overactive children or for just humans, adults who just want to chill. So those are all the products we have. There's also a CBD starter kit, which is an amazing way to get started for if you are new to this and you're just on this call for the first time, or if you have a friend, you're like, she really needs this, or he really needs this, and he's not really into the oil thing. I think CBD is his or her jam. I've enrolled actually a lot of men. I wonder why, because my husband wears it on the golf course all the time. And so he's always like doctoring his friends up on the golf course with all his remedies. So that's a great way to get started. And if just as a numbers perspective, if you get started with the CBD starter kit at the regular strength, it equates to getting a free Calm roll-on. And if you buy the high strength, the extra strength, it equates to getting a free muscle bomb. So that's just an easy way to look at the numbers of the cost savings on those. So it's a great way to get started with Young Living. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording and I will open it up for questions unless anything else you guys want to have recorded before I stop.
I just wanted to echo the cost of the kit is insane when you think of the price of just, a bottle compared to the kit. So like starting with the kit is the best, even if you're like, oh, I just need it internally, I don't need the rub. Yeah, you do. Like the moment you sprain your ankle or pull a hammy or even giving it to a loved one, or my kid, I have 5 kids, 4 of which are athletes. Like I use it on them. I use it on my son that has muscle pains because it just feels good. You don't have, I love that you say you don't have to have chronic is the word, but you don't have to have consistent issues with sleep or something just to use it. Right. You can use it daily for supplemental goodness for your body. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that all those things are a great deal.
Absolutely. And I saw in the chat as well that Leah was saying that the citrus oil is brilliant for grief and distress and discomfort and anxiety, those things. That's a brilliant way to get the citrus under the tongue with the CBD, that combination. Such a great one for that. Yes. Who is not having anxiety these days with what's going on in the world? So that's a great tool. Okay. So with that,